Hey, welcome to English 102. I'm sorry to have missed you during our session today, but hopefully we'll be able to record PowerPoints as I have them ready. First thing you should know about me, I'm a total nerd and I stumble and that's just me. So don't ever feel like blah. Hey everyone, welcome to English 102. I'm sorry to have missed you today during our class session. Hopefully we can catch you next week. Today I basically just want to introduce myself to you. I want to briefly go over what we learned in 101. I realize that it may have been a while for some of you and maybe it was just last semester. So just kind of wanted to review some of those things. And then briefly wanted to discuss some of the readings for this week. Okay, here we go. This is my family. This is our really dorky mask, make fun of 2020 Christmas card picture. Just trying to find lightness where we can, since 2020 was kind of a crapshoot. So, anyway, so this is my oldest daughter, and then my son and husband, and then me and my second daughter. This is another set of family photos of us. Each of my kids are there, and they're awesome. They each do cool things, and it's kind of fun to watch them grow up. These pictures I picked. This was our Halloween this year. We are super nerds. We really love Halloween, and we love going all out. And my son is in character. That's his favorite Spider-Man, Peter Parker, or not, Miles Morales. Sorry, Miles Morales is his favorite. Also, we really love going kayaking and hiking. That's kind of kept us sane over the quarantine holiday, the never-ending holiday. And then we also really, really love baking. Some of us really love baking. And so these are pictures of our Thanksgiving pies and Christmas cookies. Anyway, moving on briefly, just to discuss our syllabus and some of the things about class this semester. As far as my grading policy, one of the questions that was asked a lot in our last discussion was how strict am I on grading? The answer is not much. As long as you are doing the work, at least on these small assignments, you'll get full credit. And the cool thing about the smaller assignments is that they all scaffold to the larger assignments. So by the time you get to a paper, you will already have taken steps to get that paper finished by doing the smaller assignments. And you will have already gotten feedback from me, so you'll kind of know how to improve it. So as long as you're applying that feedback that I give you, you're going to do fine. Late work. My policy on late work is that it decreases in 0.5% a day until it's not worth anything anymore, essentially. However, if you have something come up, if you have an emergency situation, if you have something that you know is going to happen, please let me know ahead of time so that I can work with you to either get that in early or plan some way to get you those points. I definitely don't want anybody sacrificing life and limb to get an assignment in if it's a true emergency. So I understand we all have crazy things that happen, especially during this 2020-2021 time period. So don't kill yourself to get work in. Self-help and emotional well-being, self-health and emotional well-being is the most important thing. Class attendance. I would really like for you to all come to class. It's benefits you to come to class because there are things we discuss in class that may not come up in these PowerPoints that I share afterwards. It also just kind of helps you as a class to feel closer to classmates as you're giving each other feedback. You're not giving feedback to somebody's paper. You're giving feedback to some person who has written it. And I think that that makes a big difference in being kind in feedback, in being human in feedback, in giving feedback that matters. And in just our interactions as a class. So I would prefer that you come to class if at all possible. I get it. Things happen. You're not going to be able to make it every week. And so I will definitely try to post my PowerPoints so that you can have them afterwards. But if at all possible, please try to make it to class sessions, which will be every Monday. And okay, extra credit. I have 2 extra credit assignments planned thus far. And if there are other holidays, maybe I'll plan. I like to do holiday extra credits. I don't know why. It just somehow appeals to my nerdiness, I think. But the first one is kind of an ode to Valentine's Day. I have several pieces of literature, like flash fiction and poetry, picked out that are not necessarily traditional love poems, but are interesting nonetheless. So basically, if you read these pieces or pick a piece to read and write a summary about it, then you will get 25 points extra credit. The other extra credit I have planned so far is an informational library meeting. So they have synchronous events and then they have asynchronous events that I'll put the dates up for. And I will post that hopefully tonight or tomorrow so that you can begin thinking about that. That's due by the end of week 11. So keep that in the back of your brain if you're interested in that extra credit as well. And then as far as general expectations, I went through it in my first announcement. Again, I don't think we're going to have a problem in this class with it. I just expect us to be respectful. We're all adults in here. We're all just trying to make it to our careers. So I just expect you to be respectful of classmates and think about what you say before you say it or respond or whatever it may be. That we, being adults, can respect each other. We can respect our differences. We can disagree with one another without being disagreeable. And I think that as humans, we learn more from one another when we learn how to have those disagreements, to have those discussions, to state our opinions in a way that somebody else will actually hear them instead of creating combat. Again, I don't expect to have any complications with that. You guys are all awesome. So that's just my policy on that. That discrimination will not be tolerated in any form. If you are experiencing something as a student, please contact me. If you ever feel like I have done anything that's inappropriate, please contact me and let me know. I make mistakes. I'm a human and we're all humans. And so I don't want to feel like I am offending anybody or hurting anybody's feelings. So please do keep me in the loop if you are feeling that from another student or myself. And let's discuss it and see how we can fix it. Okay, thank you. So let's move on to 101 review. My first bit that I wanted to talk about is rhetorical reading. In our textbooks, in I believe chapter 1, it talks about rhetorical reading and what it takes to become a rhetorical reader. That we need to listen, to hear, to think, to research, to give credit, to imagine, and to try. That there's a process involved with becoming a rhetorical thinker and a rhetorical reactor. And it involves this process. On page 6 of your book, Krista Radcliffe says, opening yourself to the thoughts of others and making the effort not only to hear their words, but to take those words in and fully understand what people are saying is the process of rhetorical listening. I really love that idea, and I think that it will be really important, especially this semester as you are creating your own topics, to listen to the conversations that people are having, to listen to the topics that are happening in the world around you. Is your topic one that people are talking about? Is your topic important? Is it something that is in discussion? Is it in the public mind? One of the things that as you begin to study, as you go through your college career, as it were, you'll be taking art history classes, and you'll be taking regular history classes, and you'll be taking architecture classes perhaps, and you'll be taking literature surveys. And so one of the things that you'll begin to notice is that throughout all of the different genres, people are thinking about similar things at the same time. Even if you begin to study the scientists in the Enlightenment, that at any given time, there will be several scientists who are working on the same problem. And it's not because they have read each other's work, although that's sometimes a thing, but it's because they are independently arriving at similar thoughts at the same time based on the information that's available. And so as you begin to formulate your own topics, begin to listen to the conversations that people are having, and then begin to really hear them. What are they actually saying? In ancient Rome, moving to page 7 of our text, Cicero argued that considering alternative points of view and counter-arguments was key to making a successful argument. So as you're planning your papers, say I'm writing a paper about green energy and its efficacy. I'm going to want to consider all of the arguments that are pro-green energy, but I'm also going to want to look at the counter-arguments. What are the people saying who are against the argument? Are their arguments valid? I think that sometimes things aren't as simple as we like to imagine. And I think that if you go into writing your research paper only having considered one point of view, then you're going to do yourself a great disservice once that paper gets out there, because somebody will be able to go, oh, yeah, but this person said that. What about this idea? And it won't be able to hold water. So I want you to consider differing viewpoints as you consider your own, and maybe go into something with an open mind, realizing that after you do your research, your thesis may completely change based on what else is out there. Which again leads me to research, which is the next part of it, that you have to be doing this research, that you have to be looking for sources not only that validate your opinion and your thesis, but also sources that negate that. Do those sources hold water or not? If they don't hold water, then you're fine. But if they're valid, then you're going to need to reconsider again. Then we will also be looking at giving credit. We'll be looking at citations, and we'll be looking at bibliography and works cited pages, depending on whether you're using APA or MLA format. So giving credit is super important within the academic context because of that idea of shared knowledge and tracing where that knowledge comes from. The next step is to imagine what your response will be. Imagine yourself engaging in this rhetorical discussion. What do you have to add to this discussion? And then finally, as you're writing your paper, you're trying rhetorics on for size. How does it fit with you? Is it working for you? Are your arguments valid? And maybe you try out rhetorics and it fails, and you have to start back at the beginning by listening to these arguments again. These are all ideas that we kind of talked about in 101, but we'll be applying in a different way with our research papers this semester. And then don't forget the principles of rhetorics that we learned about last semester in 101. Purpose, audience, genre, stance, media, right? That where do we stand on a topic? Where does the author of a source stand on a topic? Who is their audience? Again, then also involved in analyzing a source is where does their funding come from? Does that influence the outcome of their results if it's a scientific paper? The answer is yes, by the way. Also, what is the genre? Is it from an academic journal, or is it from a popular magazine? There's a difference in the scope of information that you can get from one and the other. Stance. Where do they stand? Where do you stand? Are you standing in the same place? Are you standing in different places? And how does that help your paper? Does that strengthen your paper or weaken it? Things to consider. Media also, like what is the medium of your source? And then going way back to high school English, don't forget to consider the logical fallacies, right? And the appeals to emotion, right? The rhetorical appeals of ethos and logos and pathos. The way a source is conveyed, the message that they convey, and how it is received are highly dependent upon those ideas of rhetorical appeals. And so are they using logical fallacies? Are they trying to appeal to emotion in order to get me to sympathize with their cause? Possibly because there's less fact in it, not necessarily, but it could be something to consider. Consider whether or not you are being manipulated by those rhetorical devices. Anyway, moving on, we had an icebreaker activity. I think that I won't worry about that here, but for me, I'm zooming from my home. I am a creative writer. I write predominantly flash fiction. I have 3 daughters and 1 son. I've been married for almost 18 years. That's a really long time. You should know that I'm a complete nerd and prone to oversharing. So don't ever feel like what you have to say is too awkward, because I get it. One thing that means something to me, I think the kayaks are probably the thing that means the most to me, just because it's kind of my connection to the water. I would love to live next to the ocean. I would love to be with the water all the time. And so for me, the kayaks are a connection to the water. And then one thing that I've read or watched that changed my opinion. There are a lot of things, and they are constantly changing. Little Fires Everywhere by Cynthia Ng. I haven't watched the show. I've heard it's good. I read the book, though, and that changed how I feel about some fundamental issues. I feel like The Hate U Give is another really important one. Let's see. I have Dear Ajiwele, or A Feminist Manifesto and 15 Suggestions, by Adichie, and she's amazing. This book is awesome. It's like novella length. It's very tiny, but they're little essays or letters, 63 pages, and it's a tiny book, tiny pages. Super accessible, super beautiful and powerful, makes me proud to be a woman, but also makes me proud of other women who are doing huge and beautiful things. Also, Trick Mirror by Gia Tolentino, a book of essays. I don't know if you know Gia Tolentino, but I didn't like essays before I read this book. Her essays are accessible, they're interesting, they're relevant about things that we are experiencing today. So those are my most recent life-changing books. I feel like any of the great literary books that is coming out or written teaches me something about myself, teaches me something about how I relate to the world and how I relate to other people. But those are my current favorites. So we also did a brainstorming activity. You're welcome to look at it if you'd like to try it out. I mean, you kind of did with just your topic in the journal. It's similar to what we did in the journal, but just with movies. So there is that if you'd like it. And then just kind of my last thing is kind of discussing the readings for this week. Chapter 3 wasn't in the assigned readings. It showed up in the journal, assignment, and I hadn't realized that until today. So I kind of wanted to just go over that a bit because I didn't think it was super fair to throw that in at the last minute. Basically, for academic reading strategies, it's kind of a tough thing moving from fiction reading or moving from, whatever we read. I don't know that as a society we get much time to read anymore. I think that more often than not we are reading articles on the internet, or maybe we're reading books if we've got the time. But even I, as a writer and a reader, don't have time to read. So I can completely understand that. But I don't enjoy reading academic journals in my free time either. So it's a different skill. My first suggestion is don't read laterally. Don't just go from beginning to end, because it can be an enormous waste of your time, first off. If you read the entire article only to realize kind of at the end that the conclusion doesn't really help you. So my first suggestion is pay attention to the organizational cues. Read the intro or the thesis, and then look at the transitions and maybe skim a line or two. Look at the headings, and then I would go and I would look at the conclusion, or I'm not quite sure what it is. And I know there's the abstract as well. I'm trying to think of the scientific papers, but look again at the conclusion and see whether this applies. Will this be a source that works for you? If the answer is no, move on, throw it aside. If the answer is yes, then go on to this next step and make 3 passes. So your first pass, the first time you read through a paper, skim it and do those things. Don't read laterally. Read the intro, the thesis, the headings. Make sure that this applies to you. Second reading, take it line by line and annotate. Mark the things that are interesting, mark the things that are useful. Keep moving. Confirms what I have the coding over here that's handy and helpful for that process of annotating. And really, you can annotate however you want to. This is just one system. Different symbols are going to work better for different people. If you have colors that you would like to use better. I mostly use sticky notes, and I have color-coded sticky notes, and so that's what works for me. But everybody kind of needs to find a process that works for them. So skim, then annotate, find the things that quickly go over and find the things that will work for you. And then your third pass, I would call your deep dive. Go line by line, take it minute by minute, and find the things that are really working. Observe the things that the author is doing. What are the tools that the author is using? How will this apply to your paper? Is it useful? What are the points what are the points being made? Take a deep dive and spend time with it in a way that will be really, really beneficial to your research. We've already kind of discussed coding in the terms of annotation. And then realize that a lot of the texts that you're going to be going through will be difficult. So as you're reading these difficult texts, look for what's familiar. As you're digging through these really dense words, and I'm not quite sure why academia loves really dense verbiage, but they really do. So much so that sometimes it becomes incomprehensible. So if at all possible, try to grasp the things that you do understand, and say, oh, okay, this makes sense, and then circle it or mark it and hold on to that. And then try to look for the things that are important. Okay, so this is the thesis. This is an important point, right? And then, you could go back to that idea of transitions and headings, right? Look for those points that say something important about the paper, where there's a transition into another idea, or just an explanation of an idea that was suggested earlier, or a link to a larger idea outside of the paper. Those are the landmark elements that are going to be important in difficult texts. And so if you can find those kind of things, then you don't have to spend every moment in the line by line, super dense expository that is sometimes difficult to get through. And then look at your response. Take a minute to analyze your response to this reading. What are you getting out of it? What is difficult? Are there words that maybe you need to look up? I have like a list of words that I will look up sometimes that I'll just write in the margins, and then I'll look it up, and that way I'm actively learning how to read this paper as I'm reading it, which sounds really long and tedious, but I promise the more that you read this kind of reading, this academic language, that it gets a lot easier, especially if you can take time to kind of analyze where your brain is at as you're doing it. And then my last suggestion on reading these difficult texts, I just can't say that word, on reading these difficult texts is just to persist. Don't give up. Read more of them and realize that if you don't understand them, it's not because you're not smart enough to do it. It's because these people enjoy they enjoy sounding intelligent, and they enjoy that sound or whatever, that there is a bit of snobbiness there perhaps, but that it's not something that you can't also begin to understand, that it gets easier as you continue to do it. So lastly, final questions, comments, please go ahead and email me. Feel free to email me whenever. I know I haven't listed official class hours, and I honestly am not sure that I will for this semester, just because I kind of have an open door policy that if you need something, message me. If you want to make a conference anytime, let me know and we'll set something up. I'm always available during our class times, but I realize that maybe those aren't times that work for everybody. So just let me know if there's anything you want to discuss. I really would like to see everybody succeed this semester. I'd like to see you leaving feeling like you've gotten out of it what you paid for it, since I know these classes aren't expensive. I know that it takes time and money and effort to even get to this point. And so I appreciate that effort, and I want you to not leave my class feeling like you haven't gotten out of it everything you need to. So please reach out to me. Please communicate. Let me know what you need from me if you need things that I'm not giving for you. So also, complete the class meetings preference survey. I emailed it to you. And then there's also a link in this announcement as well, if it matters. The question was basically whether people wanted to meet as a whole group or in small groups, and whether people preferred to meet on Monday or Wednesdays. Thus far, it looks like the preference is to just meet as a whole group on Mondays, which is fine with me. I like meeting on Mondays because then you guys have the information you need at the start of the week. So you guys can just spend the rest of your week getting all your stuff done. So I really love that idea. But if it doesn't work for you, let me know. I can always set up a Wednesday class meeting for just a couple students if that's what they prefer. So yeah, keep me in the loop. I appreciate you. I'm glad you're here, and I'm super, super excited about this semester. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.